आर्टिकल 23 फंडामेंटल राइट, मूलभूत अधिकार, और इस मूलभूत अधिकार में ह्यूमन ट्रैफिकिंग को कंप्लीट बैन किया गया है. As a part of our effort to combat human trafficking, we are bringing a spotlight on individuals who contribute by identifying, supporting, counseling, seeking justice for victims of trafficking, and continues to challenge the impunity of traffickers. There are several individuals across India who continues to contribute their time and energy to combat crime against humanity. This includes the administrative officers, law enforcement agencies, civil society, child protection officials, journalists, lawyers, medical professionals, mental health experts. हमारे बीच में श्री कमल सक्सेना, जो कि यूपी कैडर के बहुत सीनियर आईपीएस ऑफिसर हैं और वर्तमान में वो डीजी विजिलेंस यूपी पीसीएल में के हेड के रूप में हैं. इससे पहले वो 2012 से लेके 2017 तक वो यूपी के गृह सचिव रह चुके हैं. सर, आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है आर्टिकल 23 डायलॉग में आने के लिए. सर, कैन यू शेयर योर एक्सपीरियंस एज अ पुलिस ऑफिसर?
थैंक यू सो मच.
सर, कैन यू शेयर योर एक्सपीरियंस एज अ पुलिस ऑफिसर on fighting human trafficking?
Rishi, human trafficking as a crime, my serious and direct involvement and exposure to this crime took place in 2012 as a Secretary Home. It's good to admit that during a training period and during a stint as district in charge of district for regular policing and in ranges and zones, human trafficking somehow failed to find a priority which it should have, and therefore my experience is largely more as a Secretary Home, in which I got exposed once there was a disaster in Nepal where a lot of damage had taken place and people had migrated to plains and lower parts of the Himalayan ranges. It was then that we realized that human trafficking was taking place along the border of India and Nepal. तो मेरा जो अनुभव, जो एक्सपीरियंस रहा, फर्स्ट एक्सपोजर रहा, it was then we realized कि what a serious crime this is, and it should be given a top priority by all law enforcement agencies and stakeholders. The issue with this type of crime is there are lot many stakeholders and the awareness is very low. At the same time, the criminals are very well organized, and the victim himself or herself and the family members of the victim are not aware that a crime has already taken place or it's being taken place. It's a continuous crime. So I can only say that while in the field, हम लोगों ने सातों districts जो पड़ते हैं along Nepal border sensitize किया, video conferencing की, हम लोगों ने placards लगाए, transit points पे लोगों को print कराए और अवेयर कर रहा है कि इन ह्यूमन ट्रैफिकिंग, मानव तस्करों से सावधान रहे, बच के रहे. वी रेस्क्यूड लॉट ऑफ पीपल, वी रेस्क्यूड लॉट ऑफ विक्टिम्स और उनको गिरफ्तार भी किया. साथ ही साथ हम लोगों ने वीडियो कॉन्फ्रेंसिंग से कंटिन्यूअसली एक तरह का सिटअप लेते रहे अपने डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट, पुलिस एंड अदर स्टेक होल्डर्स से. लेकिन जो एक्सपीरियंस में मैंने देखा कि ये एक ऐसा क्राइम है जिसकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी काफी शेयर्ड है फ्रॉम डिफरेंट गवर्नमेंट एजेंसीज, बट टू हैंड होल्ड, टू कोहेरेंटली put them collectively at work, जो नोडल वर्क की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी मैंने एज्यूम कर ली और कन्वर्जेंस मेरे पॉइंट पे हो रहा था, that was a very satisfying experience because one hand normally doesn't know what the other hand is doing. From there we could see कि किस डिस्ट्रिक्ट में कौन पकड़ में आया है, उसका इंटेरोगेशन क्या बता रहा है, हमें कौन से बगल वाली डिस्ट्रिक्ट में क्या मेजर्स लेने हैं. So that was a very good experience and definitely a big learning for me.
A big learning part, sir. Sir, can you elaborate more on India's response in combating trafficking? Because trafficking एक organized crime है, source और destination कहीं ना कहीं connect करता है, बीच में transit है, ये बड़ा पेचीदा सा लगता है. पर as a police officer, sir, आपको क्या लगता है कि पुलिस कैसे interstate को strengthen कर सकती है? और चूंकि आप एक destination state में थे, यूपी transit भी है और destination भी है, और यहाँ से कई बार source भी हो जाता है, तो ये पुलिस को, लोअर पुलिस ऑफिशियल्स को समझ नहीं आता. तो किस तरह से इंडिया को रिस्पॉन्स करना चाहिए एज अ पुलिस प्रोस्पेक्टिव, सर? इसको जरा एलॉबरेट करें, सर.
Actually, I personally feel that हमारा as a country or as a response to this heinous crime of human trafficking requires a more concentrated effort a more organized effort, and the stakeholders right from the grassroots at all levels, whether it is intake at constabulary or sub-inspectors or deputy SP or IPS officers, they should be given a dedicated input about human trafficking with proper examinations and training every once in 2 or 3 months with latest laws and latest rulings from the court and latest patterns that have started emerging. And not only for police, for all the stakeholders, whether it is judiciary, it is the lawyers or the magistracy or the health services or the probation officers, because this is a crime which is happening within the society, not by quote unquote identified criminals, but by opportunists who are exploiting certain disparity in society, whether it is economic or whether it is employment or it is unsafe migratory forces or some kind of disaster is taking place, whether it is man-made or natural disaster where poverty and shelter homes are exploited to as a catchment for these people. And the market is very high. We only talk largely about beggary, as you say. Article 23 touches only on beggary and forced labor. But forced labor got defined as late as in 1982. And today, beggary is perhaps not the only aspect of human trafficking. Today, we talk about prostitution, pornography, forced labor, and many other aspects. It's a billion dollar industry today. Today, they are talking about medical human trafficking, where they are using, this is, we have reasons to believe that they're using humans for trials and for organ transplantation and organ harvesting. So it is becoming draconian by every day, by the movement of the day. And somehow, the different stakeholders, their training pattern, their execution of the enforcement, the coordination between agencies are not as they should be. They lack a lot of coherence, they lack a lot of hand-holding. We need to put our heads together, our efforts together, our resources together, and with the help of NGOs, the judiciary, the police, we must evolve and keep evolving a methodology. It is never that one point of time we reach and therefore we have saturated our efforts. That can never happen. And we have a huge shoreline. We are well connected, as you rightly say. We are also the source. We are also the destination. People are also in transit. And it's a very huge population we have got. And so people are more likely to get lost. And कोई गुमशुदा हो जाता है तो पुलिस उसको सिंसियरिटी से पता लगाए कैसे हुआ क्यों हुआ, लेकिन नॉर्मली उस कंसंट्रेटेड एफर्ट से नहीं हो पाता, नॉट फॉर एनी अदर रीजन, शायद प्रायोरिटीज ऐसी हम लोग की डिफाइन नहीं होती, देयर आर अदर प्रेसिंग नीड्स. But it is high time that we take note of this, and this is virtually an underbelly of a civilization. We must take a note of this, and we need to be more aggressive, more organized, more well trained, and start an awareness campaign and proper coordinated handholding amongst different stakeholders.
सर, आपने मोर एग्रेसिव की बात की, ट्रेनिंग की बात की, इंटरस्टेट कोलैबोरेशंस की बात की, एंड इट इज बिकॉज ऑफ दिस these frontline individuals, unsung heroes, the national fight to uphold and implement Article 23 of the Constitution of India continues. And इसीलिए सर आर्टिकल 23 डायलॉग हम लोग लेके आए हैं, और हम लोग ऐसे तमाम लोगों तक पहुंचेंगे, चाहे वो सोर्स स्टेट से बहुत ऐसे लोग हैं जो ग्रास रूट में काम कर रहे हैं, पंचायत लीडर्स हुए, पुलिस के ऑफिसर जो अपने तमाम परेशानियों के बीच में रहते हुए भी वो ह्यूमन ट्रैफिकिंग को कहीं ना कहीं फाइट कर रहे हैं. सोशल वर्कर्स बहुत ऐसे हैं जो फाइट कर रहे हैं. हम लोग को सबको कलेक्टिव होके ये काम करना होगा. सर, एक चीज और, चूंकि आप पुलिस में हैं और सीनियर पुलिस फोर्स में हैं, यूपी पुलिस में, सर हम लोग लॉ एनफोर्समेंट को कैसे स्ट्रेंथन कर सकें, खासकर जब हाल ही में भी गृह मंत्रालय ने एक एडवाइजरी जारी किया है, ट्रेनिंग की बात कही है लॉ एनफोर्समेंट पुलिस वालों को. क्या ट्रेनिंग से हमारे पुलिस को काफी इंपॉर्टेंस मिलता है, उनको काफी सपोर्ट मिलता है, कोलैबोरेशन स्ट्रांग होता है कि नहीं होता है? ट्रेनिंग क्यों इंपॉर्टेंट है? और खासकर आपने जब अर्थक्वेक भूकंप आया था, नेपाल अर्थक्वेक जब आया था, आपने ट्रेनिंग को बहुत प्राथमिकता दी थी, और उसी के कारण बहुत ट्रैफिकर्स पकड़े गए थे. कहीं ना कहीं पुलिस काफी स्ट्रेंथन हुआ था उसको. सर, ये ट्रेनिंग क्यों इंपॉर्टेंट है पुलिस के लिए, लॉ एनफोर्समेंट के लिए?
देखिए ऋषि, दिस इज वेरी ट्रू. जब वो त्रासदी हुई थी नेपाल में, एंड वी कुड ट्रेन मोर देन 6,000 डिफरेंट स्टेक होल्डर्स, इंक्लूडिंग पुलिस, जुडिशरी, हेल्थ एंड प्रोबेशनरी ऑफिसर्स, मैजिस्ट्रेसी, lawyers and NGOs worked with us. And we had a strong resource pool of more than 6,000 trained personnel, quote unquote, and plus the organizations and their staff members. So we could create a critical mass of people who were fully sensitized on the issue of human trafficking. So training is a very essential input, and the training it should find a regular pattern, a paper, an exercise like any other special leg that we talk about IPC, CRPC तो पढ़ाते ही हैं लेकिन special legs के लिए हमारी classes होती है डाउरी है many other एक्स जो होते हैं उन special legs की तरह इस subject को बहुत गंभीरता से पढ़ाना चाहिए in all the stakeholders number one. Number two, training should be repeated, say every 2 or 3 months, and within those 2-3 months of different batches, they should ensure 100% covering all the members of that particular service. Once that is there, then each member should have an opportunity to revisit training center once in 3 to 4 years. In the meantime, जो evolutionary data हमसे बन के आता है, हमारे patterns emerge होके आते हैं. Transportation is a big thing. The new emergence of trends of human trafficking, the international laws, what are the loopholes जहाँ पे हमारे defense council अपने criminals को बचा ले जा रहे हैं. That should always be thrown open to make it really vibrant, living, and day-to-day interaction if we have to really go about handling human trafficking. So that is as far as the training goes, regular, repeated, and covering 100%. Then it should be supplemented by the awareness campaign in society. Repeated, regular. There are so many media, FM radio, TV, and newspapers and all. We should make an effort, a concentrated effort that apart from the state responsibility and the stakeholders and the NGOs, the civil society at large should also be sensitized on this crime, and they should join hands in fighting this menace. So the two things put together should really go in a long way in supporting our efforts to fight human trafficking. At the same time, I realized that all the stakeholders, there's so many of them, all of them may not have the same level of priority and commitment because they've got other issues to handle also, they've got other responsibilities to discharge. So each department, like in police, we have anti-human trafficking thanas. Now, whatever be the level of sensitivity, the operational purpose, that needs to be reiterated again and again by all officers who are in charges and the district SPs should ensure that they are always functional. They should never be taken for granted and their priority should not go down. So in other words, in each department, they should have a dedicated component which keeps evolving and updates its database regarding human trafficking. And the need be, we press it into service, join our hands together once there's a major catch or a big group that is apprehended, and we go about it in a systematic way. We need a more systematic approach.
सर कुछ समय तक आप चाइल्ड प्रोटेक्शन में WCD यूपी के डिपार्टमेंट में थे. कहीं ना कहीं आपने काफी बदलाव किया था. जब डिपार्टमेंट में थे आपने कई सारी ट्रेनिंग शुरू की थी, चाइल्ड वेलफेयर कमेटी की आपने स्ट्रेंथन किया था. आपने किस तरह से इसको काफी चेंजेस आए थे जब आपने वहां पर स्टेप्स उठाने शुरू किए. बहुत लूपहोल्स आपको मिले थे. क्या चेंजेस लाए थे सर जिसके कारण इतनी सक्सेस मिली?
देखिए, हम लोग, जब मैं सचिव था महिला एवं बाल विकास विभाग में उत्तर प्रदेश के, तो तब जेजे एक्ट आया था. जेजे एक्ट के रूल्स हम लोग को बनाने थे. उस रूल्स में भी रियलाइज कि जो हमारे डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल के चाइल्ड प्रोटेक्शन एजेंसीज हैं, दे हैव नॉट बीन फॉर्मलाइज्ड, दे हैव नॉट बीन कोडिफाइड. एंड इट वाज एन एफर्ट दैट जो हम लोग के हाई कोर्ट के हर स्टेट में एग्जिस्ट करती हैं, उनकी मदद से हम लोगों ने जब ये मॉडल रूल्स बना रहे थे, तब एक एक्सपेरिमेंट करके वी क्रिएटेड चाइल्ड प्रोटेक्शन units district level and mandal level. We sensitized the DMs and the commissioners, and we had a state level conference, and that was a big success because many of them openly admitted that they were not aware of such a heinous crime taking place, and it is high time that at the level of the divisional commissioner and district magistrate should dedicate some committed time for these issues pertaining to children and human trafficking and issues pertaining to women. And that was a very good beginning because we could sensitize people in the rural sector also. Gram Pradhan, block development officers, we could reach out to many government agencies who were really helping us in detecting such kind of possible victims and potential areas of threat where human trafficking or crime against women and children is likely to take place or has taken place. So that was a very good thing. We reached out to millions of people through this effort of ours, and we had regularized it after every almost 3 months. A division level meeting should be held to ensure and take an update of how progress is being made in this issue. So that came as a pleasant surprise because earlier there was no such concept, and district protection society or other group, it was sensitized at district level also, and at division level there were representation from different districts, from different stakeholders, where certain issues were taken up by the division commissioners themselves.
सर, अभी हम लोगों के बीच में एक बड़ी गंभीर सी सिचुएशन है कोरोना वायरस को लेके, कोविड-19, एंड इस कोविड-19 के समय में सर वनरेबिलिटीज बढ़ रहा है, जॉब्स लॉस हो रहे हैं, सोर्स और डेस्टिनेशन में कहीं ना कहीं पॉवर्टी बढ़ रहा है। ये एक बहुत बड़ी चैलेंज है, सोशल वर्कर्स के लिए चैलेंज है, खासकर जो ह्यूमन ट्रैफिकिंग को फाइट कर रहे हैं ग्राउंड में, पंचायत के लोगों को प्रॉब्लम आ रहा होगा। कहीं ना कहीं सर वनरेबिलिटी बढ़ रहा है। एज अ पुलिस ऑफिसर सर, किस तरह से हम लोगों को पुलिस के साथ काम करना चाहिए ताकि कोई इस तरह से किसी भोली भाली लड़कियों को कोई ट्रैप ना कर पाए? कैसे हम इंटेलिजेंस को स्ट्रॉन्ग करके हम इंटेलिजेंस को पुलिस को बता पाए? क्या मैकेनिज्म है? एंटी ह्यूमन ट्रैफिकिंग क्या पूरे उत्तर प्रदेश में इस तरह का स्ट्रेंथन हो चुका है कि नहीं हुआ है? इसको अगर हम लोग बताएं ताकि हमारे बहुत सारे व्यूअर्स हैं जो युवा हैं और बहुत सारे ऐसे लोग हैं जो आपसे जुड़ना चाहेंगे, यूपी पुलिस से जुड़ना चाहेंगे, अपने इंटेलिजेंस को लाके आप लोगों तक बताना चाहेंगे ताकि कोई इस तरह के गैंग अगर ऑपरेट कर रहा है तो उसको कहीं ना कहीं हम लोग उजागर कर सके।
That is right, issue, because human trafficking in itself is a crime which is also as a result of certain societies scenarios, positions, like unemployment is there, healthcare is there, then opportunity for to get educated, to get an employment, or maybe it is poverty or lack of opportunity in a certain area. So those are the push factors which push youngsters and families to migrate from a place to another place. And unsafe migration leads to a propensity of human trafficking. Now, as you rightly said, COVID times have made things very difficult. The employment or the economic situation has become very challenging. Socially, reverse migration has set in. But at the same time, the intelligence that we were getting about the possible areas of human trafficking, the catchment areas, those sources are started drying up. Now, talking about human trafficking, certain patterns had emerged. For example, in Uttar Pradesh, I can say, Moradabad, we could pin down a few traffickers, and they had trafficked nearly 168 or 170 girls from West Bengal. Then we realized that from Jharkhand, the next stopover was Bijnor, or from Nepal, the stopover was Varanasi. Then NCR region was flooded with trafficked victims from Uttarakhand. Now, those are the figures on the crime that we could see and see some emerging pattern. In other words, we have certain areas from which these boys and girls are picked up regularly. Now, this should be the area of focus primarily, the local administration and the government, and should create a security net, and they should kind of update the census if any child within the vulnerable age group or any person who drops out appearance. Digitally now technology is there. We have got some fantastic software tracing people to fight COVID. At the same time, we can keep track of certain families who are going different. Only on those areas, it's not possible to have it right across the country. But those areas which have provenly been, have people working systematically for human trafficking, luring boys and girls into flesh trade and prostitution and other places, promising them secure employment, things like that. We should focus our attention on them, work out a methodology, and keep a track and tap on them. At the same time, whatever relief measures that are being arranged, these areas should be given more priority during COVID times, whether it is food packages or rehabilitation, in helping people out, so that we can slow down this trend. Now, your Article 23 mentions something about beggary, but today human trafficking not only contributes to beggary, it goes beyond that. It's into pornography, into sports where small kids are tied on behind a camel back and camel races take place. Then there is organ harvesting and not forced labor, child marriages. So there are so many dimensions that have now added and grown. and therefore there are so many social aspects which are indicators of these areas which should be dealt with priority. So at least we plug those loopholes and keep sensitized aggressive force, which will take care of or rather help in diminishing this trend of human trafficking.
Sir, finally, your comment to the youth of this country, how we can unite as a civil society persons, आम जनता कैसे आपके पुलिस के साथ जुड़ सकती है। हम लोग पुलिस का फोर्स बनना चाहते हैं, पुलिस के आईज एंड ईयर्स बनना चाहते हैं, ताकि हम सब मिलके पुलिस को भी स्ट्रेंथन करें और ऑर्गेनाइज क्राइम को ब्रेक कर सकें। सर, युवाओं के लिए एक मैसेज आपके तरफ से।
I would only say that you say that युवाओं के लिए and as a civil society, now we really want to call ourselves civilized. Each and every youth of this country must know what it takes to be called civilized. This is perhaps the most inhuman form of crime that takes place, and perhaps, as I say, this is ours is the only species which is involved in human trafficking. No other species on this planet is involved in trafficking its own kind. So if we call ourselves civilized, it is the responsibility to bear the burden of fighting this menace of human trafficking. So talking to youth, if we want to call ourselves civilized, if we want to be a part of government through our competitive examinations, we want to enter the government functionary, or even outside the government functionaries, or as a part of NGO, or as any other member of the society, we must be aware of this menace, and we should knowingly or unknowingly not be a beneficiary from this, and try to accept this responsibility and help efforts of the government, of the NGOs in fighting this menace and stopping this crime. So it is a matter of belongingness, shouldering the responsibility of being active.
Shouldering the responsibility. I hope हमारे दर्शकों ने ये एक्सपीरियंस आईपीएस ऑफिसर यूपी कैडर के श्री कमल सक्सेना जी को बहुत अच्छे से सुना होगा। देखिए, ये एक्सपीरियंस ये आपको कहीं नहीं मिलेगा। ये जो एक्सपीरियंस है, ये आप ऑफिसर से बात करेंगे, जब समझेंगे तभी आपको समझ आएगा कि पुलिसिंग भी बहुत डिफिकल्ट जॉब है और पुलिसिंग भी बहुत स्ट्रेसफुल जॉब है। थैंक यू वेरी मच सर फॉर कमिंग इन दिस आर्टिकल 23 डायलॉग। और हम इस आर्टिकल 23 डायलॉग को जगह जगह लेके जाएंगे। हम लोग हर जगह ये मैसेज देंगे कि वी ऑल हैव टू बी ऑर्गेनाइज्ड इन फाइटिंग दिस ऑर्गेनाइज्ड क्राइम। Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, Ish.